The massive fist swung with the force of a dying star. Garrison Prime Guthan, a Dravari Apex instructor towering at 2.8 m, launched the strike. His heavy hydrostatic gel armor plating flushed a deep aggressive crimson. Between the human's unarmored fingers, a flawed pale ceramic caliper pin rested loosely. No block, no parry, no fear. The fist traveled at a speed designed to turn bone to powder. The human simply leaned back into the negative space, raising the dull ceramic point. What happened next didn't just end a fight, it broke an empire. Listen closely. 20 minutes earlier, Aerofracture Bay Sigma 9 was already deafening. The testing bay was a brutal cylinder of screaming winds and alkaline vapor. The Dravari phalanx used it to force submission through sheer environmental hostility. Zir stood in the observation deck above, monitoring the telemetry. His crystalline ocular ridges vibrated slightly. The atmospheric shear winds reached 250 knots down on the metal grating. 5 heavily muscled alien recruits were already on their knees. A towering centroided cadet wept openly as its respiratory filters began to clog with the alkaline vapor. The Dravari instructors paced the perimeter, their heavy hydrostatic plates ground together, emitting a low 80 decibel hum of satisfaction. In the center of the chaos stood CIA. She was 1.62 m of unimpressive mammalian tissue. Her left thumbnail bore a permanent dark alkaline stain from her days as a deep space hydro rigger. She shifted her weight periodically, rolling her right ankle as if relieving an old ache. The wind howled around her, carrying the sharp chemical tang of the vapor. She slid the flawed ceramic pin into her frayed collar, treating the hurricane like a drafty hallway. Zir tapped his primary console. The data was impossible. Her biometric respiratory graph remained smoother than a sleeping infant's. Zir's ocular ridges clicked in rapid succession. He rerouted the sensors, assuming a hardware fault. The wind was thick enough to strip flesh, yet the human's heart rate rested at a steady 60 beats per minute. Guthan halted his pacing. The massive instructor stared down at CIA. Her absolute lack of panic was a direct insult to Dravari doctrine. Might made right. Submission was mandatory. He stomped into her immediate proximity, the heavy metal grating screaming under his weight. With a blunt 3-fingered hand, Guthan keyed the manual override on his wrist console. He triggered the localized 4.2 bar overpressure zone directly over her position. The pressure instantly spiked. The air grew visibly thick, designed to drive a recruit straight into the floor. CIA merely exhaled. She dropped her shoulders an inch, letting the sudden crushing weight flow over her frame rather than fighting the resistance. Zir watched the internal scans at 4.2 bar of overpressure. Her skeleton didn't buckle. The microfractures in her bones simply aligned to distribute the load. Guthan roared, a wet rumbling sound that vibrated through the reinforced glass of the observation deck. He threw a hydrostatic punch capable of denting a starship hull. The massive arm blurred forward. CIA swayed 9 millimeters to the left. The fist tore through the empty air where her jaw had just been, creating a sudden violent displacement of wind that fluttered her collar. She stood. She breathed. She waited. Guthan launched a rapid succession of strikes, a flurry of lethal, desperate force. CIA didn't parry. She pivoted efficiently on her permanently rolled right ankle, conserving every joule of energy. The behemoth exhausted his localized oxygen supply with every miss. Zir's console failed to register a single impact. Guthan pulled his arm back for the final massive swing. The blow was telegraphed, born of frustration and a complete reliance on kinetic dominance. CIA exhaled slowly. She used her thumb to casually scrape a piece of grit off the dull edge of the ceramic pin. The heavy fist swung forward, carrying enough momentum to crush a reinforced bulkhead. CIA didn't move away. She stepped inside the guard, leaning backward into the exact pocket of empty air he had vacated. Her deeply bored expression never changed. She didn't strike. She merely guided the dull point of the ceramic pin into 3 specific exposed hydrostatic gel lines beneath Guthan's primary articulation joints. There was a soft, dull physical click against the thick armor. The result was instantaneous. The puncture acted as a biological release valve on a pressurized reservoir. His armor stopped. His joints locked. His war ended. Guthan seized mid-swing, frozen solid inside his own rigid, unyielding cage. His armor plates flushed a deep panicked gray. Was a 4-ton apex predator entirely immobilized by a wardrobe fastener. Zir manually yanked his primary data feed cable from the console, unable to reconcile the physics on the screen. The howling wind of the chamber was entirely eclipsed by the deafening silence that flooded the observation deck. The instructors below simply stared. CIA twisted the ceramic pin back into her collar. She walked out of the testing ring 12 minutes early, tapping the exit console. She mentioned to the guard that the grate had made her boots uncomfortably damp. 7 months later, the Dravari phalanx quietly rewrote their entire close-quarters doctrine. Localized overpressure drills against humans were permanently banned. In the requery of broken strategies, the tiny ceramic pin rests in a stasis field. It sits as a pale monument to the exact second Dravari arithmetic died. Zir visits the hall when his ridges ache. The heavy floor grates were scrubbed sterile, smelling faintly of harsh chemicals. But the new instructors still instinctively walk around the space where her shadow fell.